Welcome to Wed and Wild. This is the podcast where we talk about the wild, wonderful, and downright ridiculous parts of marriage and family life. We are the Smiths, a married couple who's surviving love, kids, and each other. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wed and Wild.
Welcome in.
On today's episode, we are going to be talking about life as twin parents. And so we're going to just dive right in. And I'd love to start off by asking you, what were you the most anxious about when we found out that we were having twin girls?
That I was too old.
Really?
Yeah.
What about being old?
Because, as they're growing into toddlers, that I'm not going to be able to keep up and have as much energy.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Did you feel like you have to chase after them or something and you were going to be not in shape or?
No, has nothing to do with that. No, just that I was too old. Just the energy wise is not going to be how it was in my 20s.
That makes sense. Or
patience wise or any of that.
Okay. I get that. I was more nervous that even though we knew they weren't identical, I, for some reason, had it in my brain that I was not going to be able to tell them apart, and then I was going to switch them at birth in the hospital.
But you can't tell them apart as it is now. You call them each other's names all the time.
I know. And Sophia told me the other day, I'm not Ava. And I said, oh, I'm sorry.
They're not identical.
I was going to bring nail polish to the hospital so I could paint one of their toes so that we could tell them apart.
Well, it didn't even matter because you still get their names confused.
Well, luckily for us, one of them was bald and one of them had a lot of hair. They both looked like little old men.
One was darker than the other.
One was very dark and one was very white, so it was very easy to tell them apart, and we didn't have to go through that hoopla.
One was also blonde and one was also jet black hair.
That is true. One of them looked like a little gremlin, and one of them looked more like a human in my brain. One of the other things that really made me nervous was I remember very clearly posting on social media back then. I think it was right before they were born. They have names, don't refer to them as the twins or they, because it was really important for them to have individuality. What are your thoughts on individuality with raising twin girls versus keeping them together or grouping them together?
I mean, we call them the twins now.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have as big of a problem with it now that they're older than I did when they were little. Did you care when they were little?
About calling them the twins? No.
And grouping them together?
No. Well, as newborns?
Well, yeah, and
No.
Young.
No.
No? Oh. It really bothered me.
Why?
Because I felt like when they were little, people would call them the twins, and I'd be like, no, that's Ava and Sophia, or they, and they would refer to them as they versus their name. And maybe it's because they didn't have a voice, but now that they do, they can speak for themselves. So if they don't agree with something that somebody is saying, but because they're together. What about now, grouping them together? Huh?
I know. I'm against it now.
Why?
Because they're their own little people now.
I think that's kind of one of the most challenging things is not grouping them together. Would you agree?
Not grouping them together?
Yeah.
So you're saying you're the opposite now? So you were against grouping them?
Well, I think it's easier to default to grouping them together versus, how do I want to say this? It's easier to group them together versus see them as, not individuals, because we obviously see them as individuals, but I guess it's more challenging because I don't want to, let's talk about sports, for example. If they both want different sports, that's really chaotic to have to drive them to choose sports. So it's easier to keep them doing the same thing and keep them engaged in similar activities.
So that you're taking away their individuality.
I mean, I think to a certain point, yeah, to try to keep your life a little bit more sane, if I'm being real. That's not the correct answer. I was trying now, we're in the middle of trying to decide if we're going to sign them up for softball. And I asked them this time, both of them, if they wanted to play. But before I didn't ask, I just signed them up and made them play.
I feel like that's the hardest part for parents anyways. It's being able to grapple, promoting their independence.
With also balancing the reality of what you can and cannot do.
Yeah, just while honoring their shared connection anyways, the girls.
And I guess at what age do you allow them to choose versus at what age do you feel like, for example, let's run with this softball idea because this is something we're currently navigating is what if Ava were to have told me I don't want to play softball, so I don't sign her up. And then we go to the softball field and all of a sudden she wants to play softball because that's the very reality of 5-year-olds, you know?
I mean, that's your decision. Mine would be like, look, this is a learning lesson. Like, know that your decisions can be final because now it's too late. I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't be, though. They wouldn't care. They would just be like, all right, come play softball.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I think like as much as I don't agree with grouping them together and seeing them as individuals with individual wants and needs, and I do see that it's for certain aspects of life, it is easier from the parent perspective to group them together.
I mean, there's pros and cons for both.
Like what? Give me an example
Of which one?
of pros to individuality.
Well, they develop their own uniqueness.
Yeah.
That would be a.
I guess another pro would be, and I feel like our
Well,
twins.
they'll be able to identify their own talents, what they're good at. Like Ava isn't as good as Sophie at softball.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just they're discovering their own talents, learning what they're good at, what they're not good at.
Well, and I think one of the challenges, I'm sure we're not the only twin parents who navigate this, but I feel like one of our challenges with our girls in particular is that at some point they over relied on one another to like engage in social situations, at least from what I perceived. And so maybe sometimes giving them the space to be able to do things on their own might be good for them.
I think it'll also like reduce the sibling rivalry because they're not competing with each other in softball. If like only one does softball.
That's true.
Like they're both doing softball and let's say Sophie gets a good hit and Ava takes like, forever to hit the ball.
Yeah.
Now Ava's going to be disheartened because Sophie did good.
See, and I don't feel like their rivalry really stems in athletics. Like, I don't think they've actually realized that one is better than the other in athletics. No, I think that rivalry stems more from things that we do in school. They do.
No, I'm just using that as an example.
Yes.
Their rivalry, they show it now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're very competitive with each other.
Hey, Ava, you did a good job on your numbers. Well, now Sophie's mad because she wants to do it.
Well, but yeah, let's talk about that though, because I feel like there has to be a balance with twins. I don't know. There's a lot of things with twins that I just didn't anticipate, and one of them is I think I read a lot of twin books before we had the girls, where it's like don't compare them, and they're their own individuals, and it is very hard not to compare them. Like very, very challenging. And I feel like when they were littler, it was easier to remind yourself not to compare now versus when they're older. I find it incredibly challenging not to compare them in a lot of different aspects.
I mean, yeah, you're going to compare your children all the time.
Well,
it's going to be like all of my children are equal. They're equally smart. They're equally dumb. They're equally good or bad.
Well, yeah.
You're going to be like, no, this is my good child. Oh, this one is my smart child. This one is...
I think it's just even more challenging when they were born at the exact same time and you feel like they should be developing at the exact same speed, and one is doing things at a much quicker pace than the other one is.
Yeah. I mean, she is. I called that from day one, though.
Well, yeah, and how do you continue to do that without fostering rivalry amongst siblings?
I still treat them equally.
That's true.
I don't treat Sophie different, Ava. I still talk to her the same.
But do we, I mean... I guess there's this idea of balancing between balancing at what point do you lie to your kid and be like, oh no, you don't know your numbers, when let's go back to the example about hey, you wrote your numbers down, great job, and she couldn't, and it's
so
what do you apply?
Sophia did her alphabet the other day and she didn't do her whole alphabet. I told her, I was like, yeah, you did really good on these letters, all the ones that she actually wrote, but I said you were still missing your other letters. This isn't the whole alphabet.
Do you think if we would have put them in the same class that they would be progressing at the same rate? No. So we decided not to put them. We decided this year to separate their classes because I felt like Sophia overly relied on Ava to speak and do things for her, and she wasn't speaking as much as I thought she needed to be speaking. And so they're in pre-kindergarten and they are not in the same class. And next year they will be going to kindergarten. And James and I have not had this discussion, but I plan on keeping them in separate classes.
Yeah.
I don't plan on putting them back in the same class.
I'm all for separate classes. I would not want them in the same class unless they had to do it or they themselves chose to do it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple aspects there. I think one, obviously we felt like Sophia we wanted her to gain some independence and from her twin. But I also feel like there's like a level of maybe adults treating them in a certain manner that grouping them together if they're in the same classroom.
So from the school side, I think it would be easier to track their performance in school when they're apart
Mm-hmm.
rather than together.
Like as like what they can and can't do independently. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be easier for us to track their performance.
I mean, we're really clear on who's able to do what right now because they're in separate classes and they're working on different things.
Yeah,
Well, and we do things at home.
but at the same time, like having them in class together, it's like a support system.
Yeah.
Like rather than splitting them up, and because maybe it's hard for Sophie to make friends when she's in school. Not saying it is. I'm just saying maybe it is.
What about if they voice wanting to be in the same class? Would you not obviously not now. They're young. They're too young to make decisions like that, I feel like.
Yeah, but like middle school or something, yeah, they can be in the same class.
Oh, I would agree with that. I also think I lost my train of thought, but I was gonna say something around their schooling. Oh, I was gonna say they're together all the time. So I feel like the only time that they're not together is in school. And even when we pick them up, and when I go to pick them up in the car line, like the moment they see each other, they're so excited to see one another, and they'll be like talking about how they didn't see each other on the playground, and like Sophie will ask, "Well, where did you go?" And
So like, but the bad things though, also even in any grade, so even in middle school, I feel like if they're in the same class, one, they're gonna foster a dependency on each other.
oh yeah,
It's gonna be like Sophie might be like, well, I'm not gonna do my homework. I'll just let Ava do it. And I'll just copy hers, kind of thing.
yeah,
Or like Ava, well, I'm not gonna take this paper or take notes or anything because Sophie's doing it. So I'll just get it from her after class.
yeah.
So I feel like they'll be dependent on each other, and it also leaves room for like direct comparisons from the teachers. I don't know if teachers do that, but
I was about to say, I feel like then teachers would probably be like, "Oh, this person is this one is smarter than this twin, or this one is more outspoken," or it's natural. I mean, we do it now. We do it as parents as we compare them, so it's only natural for other adults to compare them as well.
And then like the third part to that would be, I don't feel like they would. I think it will hinder talking to their peers because they're in the same class, so they will just talk to themselves because they're comfortable with each other.
Yeah, or like especially if one is like less outgoing than the other one, which we do have one twin that is less outgoing than the other one in social settings.
Yeah, so socially, I think it would hinder them in class because they're just going to stay around each other all the time.
Yeah. I do think that moving their classes was the best decision for our girls in particular. They were in the same class up until pre-K. I do though think that one thing although we've switched them into separate classes, I do think putting them in the same class the first year that we put them into a daycare / quote unquote school setting, I think that was good for them to have each other as they navigated a new situation.
Yeah.
Like they enjoyed going to class together and having friends. And what I didn't think about is birthdays and having to invite entire classes because we are now in the midst of navigating a birthday. And I'm like, well, there's rules at school
Or
that you have.
as they get older, two different friend groups.
Yeah, like I don't even know how we make a decision about that now. I don't want to invite 60 kids to my kids' birthday parties. So like, do we invite no one from school? I think that's the decision.
Just keep it at family.
Yeah, I think like it's like this. We're only doing family because how do you navigate that?
Even
right
when
now in
older,
elementary, you have to.
Older, like I said, like two different friend groups. Like what if they don't want to talk to each other at school at all? So they have like their two different friend groups and no one gets along.
But see, this goes back to individuality because how many cakes have we had for their birthdays every year? 2. Like they always get their own birthday cake. We always sing happy birthday to.
Last year you did.
No, I did too. One got a chocolate one and one got a white one. I've always done 2. We've always sang happy birthday twice, one to one and one to the other. So I do feel like when they get older though, I think it's going to be a different challenge of like maybe one wanting to do one thing for their birthday and the other one wanting to do something completely different, which is that I'm okay with. In this idea of supporting them as individuals. But I also think when they're older, you don't have to invite the entire class. Right now, in pre-K and kindergarten, we have to invite the entire class. They won't allow you to pass out invitations at school if you don't invite everyone.
Yeah.
And that is just absolutely absurd from a twin parent perspective to have to invite 60 kids to a birthday party. And not that all 60 would come, but with my luck, all 60 would come. So, but the other thing I wanted to talk about with them is navigating their different personalities. How would you describe Ava and Sophie's personality,
Both of them?
or as individuals? Let's start there.
Oh, so Ava's off the wall.
What do you mean? Tell us more
She
about
bounces off the wall. Like, she doesn't stop.
That's true. I would also say she's pretty manipulative.
And Sophie is the chill one. Like, Sophia can sit there and Sophia is easily manipulated by Ava.
And and Ava is manipulative to both kids and adults.
Yeah.
Conniving might be a way to describe Ava. What is another word we would use to describe Ava?
I just, like I said, I think she is very hyper.
Is she hyper though? Because we have one that is, again, comparing them. Is it?
I don't compare them.
I do compare them, and it's
I treat them like they are two separate children born at two separate times.
I compare them, but I don't treat them the same or different because I compare them. I just it's any twin mom out there that tells you that they don't compare their kids.
Maybe it's a mom to dad.
I firmly believe is a liar. Like, it is so hard. So I'm just keeping it real.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe it's a mom versus dad thing. I don't compare them. I treat them like they're two.
You compare them though, because you will say like, "Oh, Ava's smarter than Sophie." That is a comparison.
I tell you this, but that's a fact.
But that is also a comparison. So you can't say you don't compare them. We do compare them. We just don't treat them differently based off of their comparisons. That's the difference.
But I said that from like day one.
I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. We are
born, I knew that
we compare.
Smart one.
And anybody I firmly believe anybody who tells you that they don't is a liar. But okay, so let's keep talking about.
I mean, everyone's gonna compare their kids. I feel.
Yeah, we said that in the beginning of this episode. I just think it's more obvious with twins. Okay, Ava, conniving, manipulative, smart, intelligent, loving,
whiny.
She is whiny.
That's a parenting one though. That's on you.
She is whiny. Okay, and Sophie is chill,
quiet, reserved.
But when she's mad, she's mad.
Hot-headed.
Yeah, very mad. Gets very hot-headed.
Very stubborn. She's like her daddy. She's got her daddy's personality.
Yep, she's very stubborn. She's also very loving.
It's easy to manipulate her.
It's easy to manipulate her.
She's very gullible.
Yeah, gullible is the correct. What did you overhear them talking about the other day where you were like, oh, Sophie got caught?
It was just Ava ringleading because that's what she is.
She's a leader.
And they were hiding on the stairs and she was like, hey, Sophie, go ask mom if we can, I don't know. It was something. And it's like, I just heard their whole conversation. Sophie came down and asked.
Okay, so how do we navigate the twins who have opposite or different personalities? How do you navigate?
I don't. I treat them the same. I mean,
no, you get more easily frustrated
with Ava.
Yeah, like you lose your patience.
Yeah.
Do you think if there was just one of them, you wouldn't lose your patience? Is it because there's one that is like the opposite that you're like, I'm gonna lose my mind on this one?
No, I don't.
I definitely lose my mind. I think I become easily overwhelmed with navigating their differences.
With me, it's just it depends on how I'm feeling at the time. Like if I want to just relax, it's hard to do that with just Ava. Whereas Sophie, I know she doesn't care. She'll just sit there, or she'll just do her own thing,
or she just kind of goes with the flow. I'll give you an example. We and my mom took Ava and Sophie both separately as individuals shopping. And they were two totally different experiences. Like Sophie went with the flow, didn't ask for anything. When she did, I told her she was too old. She's like, okay, stood by me. I was like, you can't get that till you're 10, you know? And she was like, okay. And Ava, on the other hand, was just like all over the place. And I looked at my mom and I said, we're never bringing her shopping again.
I don't. I just feel like if you treat them differently, it's gonna. I mean, it's obvious that the perception is gonna be this is unfair or
Yeah.
you're showing favoritism. I mean, maybe they don't completely understand that at 4 years old right now, but when they're older, they're gonna know like, oh, they're treating me different, so they must like whoever.
Yeah. Well, I do think that's something that was really big for me is like that people should not have a favorite. And we navigated that with my dad and him saying he doesn't have a favorite, but there was very clearly a favorite for a little bit.
I can tell you from a parent point of view though, how I feel is that I feel like with them having different personalities, it's more as a parent you're giving extra time and emotional effort toward each child
Yeah,
because they're requiring different needs.
that is true.
So as a parent, you're giving all the different emotions more.
To them.
Yeah,
Yeah, more
to it.
frequently.
Yeah,
Yeah. I will also say it's interesting to see other people interact with them because I will sometimes pick up on the way that people interact with them in different ways. And I'm like, oh, are you treating this one this way because she's annoying you because she is a little more whiny or she is a little more all over the place versus one that is um, maybe more chill or vice versa because they are definitely different. Okay.
but so would it be unified parenting or like a tailored parenting approach? What you would take?
I think it's definitely tailored. What do you think?
Just that you're
I mean, I think I have to tailor my parenting with them or else I would never survive because it's only me most days during the week. If I was like if I didn't tailor my parenting to their needs because they act so differently pending how they're tired or what happened at school or what they ate for lunch or what the snack was in the car that sets them off, I cannot
so.
handle it.
I feel like I mean, there's obviously pros and cons for both. I feel just like the unified is easier for the parent, but the cons are bigger for the children. Whereas,
Tell me, what do you mean by cons being, what cons would there be for unified parenting?
because you're overlooking the individual kid's need.
Yeah.
That's what, whereas like a tailored approach for parenting would be we're exhausting ourselves to make sure that, their individual needs are met.
Well, I feel like with twins, I mean, I'm going to only speak for myself because can't speak for others. But I feel like because there's such I at least feel like it's an emotional roller coaster with navigating twins. Like one could be very happy, content, or both can be very happy, content. And then all of a sudden one is like super upset and like, you're navigating that emotion and then you get them back on track or you satisfy that need. And then the other one in 5 minutes might be doing something totally crazy and then you're navigating a different need that if it's unified, I feel like you would not be able to
No,
ride the wave of twin
because
parenting.
one child's going to always feel like they're being misunderstood. And
Yeah.
like I said, their individual needs or whatever it's not going to be met.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's highly unique with twins in general because it's interesting that our girls understand that they are twins. Now, I don't think they fully understand what that means, but they know that they are together as twins. Like they know they are twins, and
They have different birthdays.
yeah. I don't really. They're sisters or something. I think if you ask them like, what does it mean to be a twin? They're like, oh, we're sisters or something. But they know that they're twins, and I think that as a result of that, I think they understand that there's certain things that they do together versus certain things that they do that are different. I also just like wonder because I don't know, I felt this a lot when they were younger and I don't feel it as much now. But I feel like when they were young, when we first had the girls and would like push them around the store or whatever, or go somewhere, everybody was always like, "Oh my God, you have twins!" Da, da, da. And they like would like come up and like idolize you. And now I don't feel like that's necessarily the case, but also our girls don't look alike, so maybe they don't realize that they're twins, but like I often dress them alike. So
I don't know what the stats are, but I would assume twins are kind of rare.
you think so?
I mean, I don't know. I've never really, I mean, I've met twins, but not like,
I've had so many in my family,
yeah,
so it runs in my family.
yeah. I mean, I haven't personally just met a lot of set of twins.
I guess that's true because when we told your family we were having twins, everybody was like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
So
Like to me, that's rare. I don't know how many people are set of twins.
I don't see very many twins on the day to day, but I will say that the other day when I was off of work and I went to Target and Marshalls, There was a twin mom that was getting out of the car, and she was loading her car seat with her stroller with her baby carriers, and I watched her walk around Marshall's, and 1, I wanted to tell her that she's doing a great job, but I was like, "I'm gonna be weird," and she was kind of, like, in a zone. I think she had headphones on. But 2, her kids were absolutely perfect. They were obviously babies. They were, like, still in infant carriers, but they didn't make a peep that whole time that they were in there, and her and I walked in at the same time, and we walked out at the same time. Um, and I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna be that weirdo that stops her and is like," because I used to remember how that was like, and I'd be like, "Oh," sometimes I'd be like, "Just stop talking to me, people. I have twins, yes, and right now I'm trying to do the things that I need to do before they lose their minds and I lose my mind. So let me keep going while they are quiet." Um, so
Well, since you're talking about the different personalities, how are you seeing that they have equal attention and fairness?
Oh, I think, as far as attention goes, I feel like I just try to make sure that we I navigate their needs and help support them in whatever we're doing for that particular day or things like that. Or like if Ava wants to draw or things or read a book, I always try to make sure that we take turns and like, okay, whose turn is it to pick the story today? Or like now, more recently, I've allowed them to pick 2 books. And so we read 2 books at night. So each of them get to pick one. Um,
See, I just read one story and they're happy with it.
well, it depends on the day. So, like, if I get them to bed and our routine is pretty tight and we have enough time where they're not going to be up till 8 o'clock at night, I will read 2 books. And then sometimes it's only one. And more recently, I've also been telling them, like, tonight we're not going to read because we were, they would have me read downstairs or we were doing something downstairs together that I just say, like, tonight is not a lay in the bed and read night.
But at what point, because I mean, I feel like I give one more attention than the other, but not because I favor one, but I just feel like equal doesn't mean identical.
No, equal means, to me, equal means like being able to meet their individual needs.
Yeah. And I don't think that they feel like, oh, you're giving so and so more attention because you favor her. Because I feel like they're happy with the attention that they receive. I just feel like one gets more attention because it's needed. I'm saying
From your perspective, yeah, I guess I could see that.
like they're not getting, I guess, like I said, they're not getting identical. Like it's 50-50. They're getting equal attention.
Yeah.
No, I feel like one needs more because one can do, one doesn't need as much.
Yeah, because they can do it independently. I think it just depends on the task that we're doing. I also, again, try to guard myself because knowing that they are both watching and learning and I don't know, I'm trying to be as best as I can, a best parent I can. I think I try to make sure that I am balancing meeting their various needs. And it might not always be equal. And especially it's not equal when one is losing their mind and the other one is.
But you still may not be able to address their emotional needs.
No, that is true. They have been very vocal in telling me that I am not their favorite or
today when you got kicked.
yeah. Yeah, or when one of them kicked me in the stomach. Like, I think I will say that I feel like I take a lot of the emotional grunt of it, but I'm also with them
So
for longer chunks of time. So
would you rather strive for equal attention or individual needs over equality?
I think I'd want to strive for individual needs.
Over just the equal
Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think there's like there's obviously an art to balancing it, and I don't claim to be an expert in how to do that by any means yet. But I do think that we have to base it off their individual needs for certain aspects, and then there's aspects where you want to make sure that you do things with both.
But again, that could go for that favoritism thing because, like I said, like because it's equal but it's not identical, they could be like, well, you're spending most of your time with Ava and not me. Or Ava could say you're spending most of your time with Sophia.
But see, and so but
So I feel like this is a.
But going back to, and again, they're 5, everybody. So like,
Well, they're 4.
well, 4, they're going to be 5. So like at this point, they get to like somewhat make some decisions on their own, right? And James has really pushed me to like allow them to be who they want to be and like allow them to express how they are because sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to make them play softball, and it's like, what if they don't want to play softball, right?
Because I feel like these are really prime years.
Yeah, I agree.
Like obviously they're not going to know themselves 100%, but this is where
yeah,
they'll learn to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I feel like
story.
more recently, I asked them questions like, "Do you want to do this? Do you want to come with me? I'm going here." And unless there's definitely times where I'm like, "I'm absolutely not taking your
Well, like,
children because I
an
need a break."
an
But
ex example would be you wanted to put him in dance class and ballet and blah, 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 and somebody's like, "I wanna fight."
yeah, I still
I'm
want to
like,
put them in dance.
"Yeah, but Sophie doesn't wanna do that. Ava does."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "By all means, go for it. Put Ava in it." But Sophie does not wanna do that. She wants to box or whatever. I think she wants to do boxing. She said she calls it fighting. She just wants to fight.
Yeah, but at what age are they too young to make their own decisions? And at what age are we like, I think yeah, I, there's like an art and a balance to like allowing them
And
to
so
identify or figure out who they are and what they want
but
to do.
but that's the
They're
example
also
of
four.
that's the example.
They have all
You're
their
gonna
life.
force her to do something.
Well, I could pose the question to her and ask her if she would like to do it, and she might think about it. Like, just like I asked them if they wanted to do cheerleading, and they had never seen cheerleaders till I started showing them what cheerleaders were, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that." But I think that at this point they're at the age where they want to do anything, you know?
I feel like the equal and the focusing on equal attention or individual needs, I feel like they're both you can't win with regardless of
No.
which one you choose, because if you do focus in on the individual needs of them, then they're going to think it's favoritism. They're going to have a bigger rivalry, I think, because they're going to be like, oh, they're going to have more infighting, I guess.
Yeah. I definitely think that as they get older, we have to be more careful of how we navigate certain parenting decisions and the way that we parent them versus like right now when they are still littler, or still little.
I mean, that's just my thought on the individual, just like the equal attention. Like, I just feel like that's you're at that point you're just not addressing their individual needs.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, like, you can't, either one you go with, you're gonna lose on something.
Well, I feel like parenting twins in general is it's a life of winning and losing. There's days where
You gotta
you're a true winner, and there's a days where you're a true loser.
Even when you lose big, you gotta just hang on to that one little small win
Oh,
once.
that is definitely true. There are some big wins and the big wins and losses here.
And I don't know if this will,
Navigating them. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't know if what I'm gonna say will hurt anyone's feeling, but I'm not a participation trophy dad.
Yeah, you're definitely. We're super competitive in
Yeah,
this house.
super competitive. So, like, when one is doing well, then yes, my competitive side will show favoritism to the one who's doing really good. But
But also, does that lead to us
definitely in that
creating?
moment,
Does that lead to us creating monsters because we're playing games and they are full on losing their
well, look,
minds
Abe,
because they are not? It's
Abe
both
was a
of them.
real sore
It's
loser.
both of them. You were not here on Christmas. You were working, and on Christmas it was full on tear because they did not want to lose.
Because they're sore losers.
It was to the point where we were playing a game where you had to pull the cup, and Sophie was jumping on top of all of the cups.
So no,
So
if you,
none of us could get it. No one could get it.
I mean, that's just that's just the way of it.
They're definitely learning though. Sophie recently this week she told me I said, okay, she kept asking me questions in the car. And I said, okay, Sophie, I have to figure out what to do in the car because the car is really driving me nuts. But Sophie, she goes, you have to say, yes, ma'am, not okay, because okay is a bad word. And I was like, okay. And she said, no, you have to say, yes, ma'am. And I was like, okay, yes, ma'am. That she was happy. So she was correcting me.
So since we brought up rivalries, how do you manage their sibling rivalry?
I feel like we don't. I feel like we foster it. That is us.
I know I do for sure.
Yeah. I think I'm more of like I'll tell them like, it's okay. You're doing that too. Or you did that too. Or you like, I like encourage, I'm like the opposite. Like I'm trying to like calm the flames and the fire that's about to erupt.
I feel like it could promote healthy adult relationships, like as they're older.
Yes, but I also think that right now, as they're trying to navigate their own emotions, they go from like 0 to 100.
And see, but this also, because intervening as parents again could show favoritism.
That's true. I don't.
Like everything
Yeah.
is revolving with raising two at a time. You cannot correct, like, and you can't discipline both.
I just tell them to get over it and like, oh, you're going to be fine. And let me show you and let me help you. That's like kind of that's like my go-to is like, but again, I'm trying to like simmer emotions here because high emotions gives me high anxiety and I cannot deal with that.
See, so you address it directly.
Yes.
So I let it resolve.
Yeah, I
Like,
know. I address it directly. And even like if they're throwing a tantrum and like screaming, I'll go up and hold them and like grab them and just hold them and let them like relax. You let them cry it out.
yeah, I let them figure it out. I feel like that is like a problem solving thing. I feel like that it teaches them resilience or independence to deal with it on your own. I don't provide the answers for them.
I will say one of the most interesting things that happened to me recently in the morning was, and this is the morning is sometimes challenging for us, even though it hasn't been recently. Ava was like taking her sweet time going to the bathroom in the morning. And I said, Ava, you need to hurry up. And Sophie looked at me and she said, you need to be nice to my sister.
See?
And so she was like standing
So,
up
like,
for her. And I was like, I really wanted to like commend her in that moment and say, like, that's exactly what you need to do. Like when you're in situations where people are being not nice to your sister, stand up. But then I'm also looking at me like she's standing up to me. So like, what's the right move here? Because you obviously want to applaud their relationship. And like she knew in that moment to stand up for her.
because I feel like normal sibling rivalry is healthy. Unchecked, obviously, is not. But I don't let it get to a
Yeah.
point where they're causing some damage.
Yeah.
But if they're fighting, I let them fight. Let them resolve their own problem.
Yeah.
And I feel like me stepping in, like, I don't feel like that's teaching them anything.
I feel like I don't step in as much now than I did when they were littler, but
Just let them figure.
yeah, I feel like I definitely let them figure it out now, but I have been known to step in and like try to mediate the situation, but I feel like they've kind of figured out how to navigate that too together, which has been good for them. I do think like I don't know, it's been an interesting one of the best things I will say is like getting to see their bond develop from when they were very, very little and like first realized that they were there until now. I think it's just like one of the most rewarding things. And like definitely different because they're the same age and we're born at the same time and drive us nuts together.
But since you brought up their Sophie sticking up for Ava, how do you feel about their bond, their twin bond and identity?
I don't know how you feel, but I feel like their bond has like started strong since they first realized that they were together. And I don't know if the part of that had to do with like the way we put their cribs, and I was like intentional about putting their crib walls together so that they could like
Where I was
talk.
against that too.
Yeah, you were against that, and I was like, no, we're
We're
putting them
them
together.
in the same bed.
Yeah.
You let them sleep in the same.
No, I didn't. They
No,
don't.
I'm saying
Oh yeah,
make them sleep in the same bed, and I said we should get to.
yeah. They definitely sleep in the same bed right now. But I think that since then, since they were born and their cribs have been together, I feel like their bond is like unbreakable. I mean, hopefully I'm not like jinxing anything, but I truly feel like they like if and
Well, because they also encourage each other.
they do. And like I'm like, yeah, have they ever been apart for like longer than a couple of hours?
I mean, school other than school, no.
Like have they like I think it would be an not that I would want to do this to them, so but I do think it would be an interesting like social experiment to like, have one go stay somewhere else for a day or two, 24 hours just
Yeah,
to
'cause
see kind of how they react. Cause even like, remember that time when one went to school and one didn't? I called you and they were like, Sophie.
yeah,
Like they were like so excited to just like hear each other's voice.
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I just,
Ava stayed home with me.
yeah. Sophie went to school. And so I just like, I feel like their bond is unlike any other. Well, probably all twins or most twins probably experience a very similar bond up until a certain age where they probably grow apart. There's probably a part where they grow,
I
an
feel like
age where they grow.
it's just a hard balance of fostering their bond and then having them develop their own separate identities.
So yeah, I definitely think that's a challenge.
Like everything that we've talked about it's so one of those like, hey, it's a careful balance on what you have to do. And I don't know if we're doing any of it.
I don't either, but I think that also the most challenging thing is like the only thing that we can control is you and I's actions and the people that are within our home's actions. Like we can't control how other people see them and how other people react to them and how other people treat them as a result of being twins.
Yeah.
And I think that to me is the most frustrating part.
I just feel like it would hinder their independence, but at the same time, they're getting along and relying on each other when need be. And this is probably contradicting something I said earlier too. about the school thing.
It probably is, but
Outside of school. How about that? I can say outside. Inside of school, I don't feel like they should be together. Outside of school, yeah.
they should be together.
Yeah.
What about like when they go to college?
If they want to be.
Should they go to the same college?
No, look, I mean, hopefully they can choose what college they want to go to. Let them go to wherever they want to go. If one wants to go somewhere in New York, okay. If one wants to go to Florida,
There are a lot of twins that like to be together and like stay together, you know?
yeah, I know that, but I'm not promoting them to do that. I'm saying, oh, you guys should stay together your whole life.
I would like, I don't know. I would love to know, like, as they get older, I'm going to just like keep interviewing them and record it because I want to know like what they're thinking. Like, we should ask them what it means to
I
be a
feel like-
twin right now.
Like
as
they should stay apart, as much as possible to hold each other accountable.
Tell me more. What do you mean by that?
Just to make sure that they're doing what they should be doing.
You mean
But not
they should
like-
be together to
No,
hold each other
You
accountable?
don't have to be together to hold each other accountable, but always, keep in close touch.
Well, I guess also at what
But, I mean, they're siblings, so hopefully they don't have a falling out to where they're talking to each other.
I know, but also I'm just saying, I'm thinking like on the opposite spectrum of like, are we doing them harm by keeping them together so much and like not having them have time away from one another?
But
Like, should
they're-
you separate their beds? Like, you say yes,
I don't think that's so easy.
but like,
I
but, like-
feel like, yeah, that's me. I think they should. I've been saying
Okay,
that
but that's-
for a couple of years now.
okay, but that's something as small as a bed. But like, what about other things? Like,
Yeah, but that's a start. We're not making big decisions like, hey, you go stay, or you send one to go stay with your mom for the summer or something, your mom and dad, and one doesn't go.
I only guess there's like, I guess these are things they don't teach you in the twin mom
But-
books.
I feel like they also figure it out on their own too, because Sophia likes to play the Nintendo Switch, her Mario game,
Mm-hmm.
and Ava doesn't.
Yeah.
And so Ava will just do her own thing while Sophia plays.
I will say that more recently, I feel like they play separate as much as they play together. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel like before it was like they were always playing together. It was like they were fighting over stuff, they were doing this, and now they will play as individuals and then they will play together.
Yeah. I feel like like I said, they're learning to balance it out on their own.
They're probably getting tired of one another.
But that's what I was talking about. Like, I just let them, they will figure it out. Like, you guys will figure it out. Don't come crying to me because someone has your toy. Figure it out. Go play with something else.
Me, depending on the mood, I might figure it out for them.
Yeah. I feel like you do that more often
I do.
because I tell you all the time.
I do.
I complain about your parenting style because you whine to me. Why do they always call me? Because they know that what you're gonna say. They know what I'm gonna say.
But it's even not with whining. But did you see that TikTok that I sent you earlier?
Hold on. Here's a good example. When I heard Sophia crying or screaming or whatever she was doing, because she was doing it to you, when I came down,
But she wasn't doing that because I had recently told Ava to go upstairs and tell you that she was crying because
I was already
wouldn't
down.
she would,
I caught Ava on like the second.
yeah, she wouldn't stop crying. I was like, you need to stop crying, and she would not stop. Would not. But I think it goes back to that TikTok I sent you. Where it was like their moms are the ones that they feel emotionally safe with to be able to have emotions.
I was actually gonna send you one today.
What did it say?
It was quite the opposite. It was the dad's point of view talking about, I don't know what my wife talks about with all these kids are always acting wild and giving her a headache and stressing her out. It's like when they're around me, like we just chill and hang out, and
I've seen those too. I wanted to be like, I want to throw my phone and be like, shut the
it's like nothing.
f-.
And I've told you that before. I was like, everything's chill, and I'm just home with them.
I will say that there are days where we are very chill. There is definitely days where we are chill, and there is definitely days where we are not chill.
Oh no, I feel like they go to you because they can manipulate you.
I think they go to me because, one, they probably can manipulate me a little bit. Let's just be honest.
Because it's always Ava.
I think like one, they definitely could. They probably do come to me because they definitely can manipulate me. I think two, they're just used to coming to me all the time because I'm always with them. There's never times where I'm not with them. Like they go to sleep, I'm there.
Well,
They wake up, I'm there.
Ava will never do that.
I pick them up.
She didn't do the
I'm there.
whining thing with me. She does all that whining with you,
I mean, it even goes.
and it's because you let her get away with the whininess. So she knows. Like they're obviously smart enough to know.
Well, but also I think part of it is that like I come down hard at sometimes when I get like overly stimulated But there are times, because I'm the only one parenting them for certain portions of the week, that I'm like, I don't want to fight this battle right now. I want to live in the status quo of peace and happiness, and I'm not going to pick this battle right now. And so I don't.
So you want to know my unpopular mindset on that?
Go ahead.
It's super unpopular.
What is it?
Feel like that it's just something that you got to get over.
I mean, that's easy for you to say because you're not here all the time. You're not here every day when they wake up. You're not here every day when they go to school.
So here's my other thing. I feel like that's just an excuse.
I don't think that's an excuse.
You're blaming me.
I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming the time
You're
that
saying
you're with.
that I'm not here. Blah, blah, blah. Take into consideration single mothers who do more than what you do.
Oh, yeah.
And don't complain. They have a lot more to complain about than you do. Like, so I feel like that's an excuse.
But I'm sure that there are probably single mothers and fathers out there that also decide when to pick their battles and when not to pick their battles, and when they're going to address certain whiningness and when they're not, because they don't want to.
I mean, of course, I'm not going to say that's wrong, because surely, out of everyone, there's not like everyone's going to be like, yeah, I got this. Yeah, some are going to be like, yeah, just do whatever you want. I'm over.
Yeah,
but
for reals.
But I'm saying, like, I like this unpopular. I just feel like that's an excuse. Like, you can't be like, oh well, they're around me, so that's why they whine. Like, no, they whine because you let them get away with it. That's what started that, not because they're around you all the time. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I disagree.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it's an unpopular one, but that's just how I feel. If you let them get away with it.
But Ava does whine around you. So like, let's be really clear.
Tell her stop.
Yeah, you tell her to stop it, and I will sometimes tell her to stop it. Sometimes I will ignore it.
So used to you, then that's the thing. You ignore it.
I do. Sometimes I do, because I'm like, I have 500 other things that I have to be doing right now. I don't have the time to address them.
But I've also always had the same reaction of stop it.
Yeah, whereas because whining really gets under your skin.
Where you've had the mixed reactions of, okay, I'll do what you say. Okay, I'm just going to ignore it. Okay, now I'm going to say no. Like, it's a mixed bag. So she's like, I feel more comfortable taking my shot with me.
Yeah.
Whereas I know Dad 100% is going to be like, stop.
That is fair.
Yeah. It's like, I'm just with her and you, it's going to be like, I'm reaching in the bag. Let's see what I get.
Yeah, that's fair. I wonder, I don't know this to be true, but I wonder if it was only one of them, if I would react differently, because there's only one that I'd have to navigate versus when there's two of them, you're navigating two humans. That is one of the most challenging things. I can't imagine having three of them at the same time, or even four of them. Oh, Lord help us. Lord help us. Well, let's end this episode on a high note. I want to tell you what Sophia told me. Are you ready for it?
Did you notice something? Yeah,
I can't believe. So Sophie woke up one morning and she went and sat on the toilet, and she told me that she had a baby in her belly. And I said, no, you don't. And she said, yes, she does. She has a baby in her belly. And I said, Sophie, you do not have a baby in your belly. And she's like, okay, fine. She got over that. I was like, this is weird. Don't be saying you have a baby in your belly. Then she went on to ask me how she came out of my belly. And how did she come out? And I said, what? And I go, Sophie, let's not talk about that right now, because I didn't know how to respond. And then she said, no, how did I come out of your belly? And then I go, oh, you just popped out. I had nothing else. Nothing else came to my mind. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say in this given moment. So I said, you popped out. And she said, was there blood? I kept spiraling. I was like, no, there's no blood. And she was like, well, how did I come out? There was no blood. No, I didn't know how to properly answer that question in that given moment. I was caught so off guard. It was 6:00 in the morning, and I was like, I'm not having this conversation with you. So on our next episode, let's talk about how we navigate conversations with the questions that kids come up with.
Okay.
All right, everybody, have a great week, and we will see you guys next week. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Wed and Wild Podcast, and like and subscribe, and review our podcast below.